we've entered the sale agreement.
Yep.
All these documents have been gathered. You're telling me this process, if the titles were created, should normally take 45 days. What is happening at that time from the person who I'm buying a parcel of land? What are they doing at this time?
So first of all, I'll say that the Law Society of Kenya conditions of sale recommends 90 days.
Oh, it's 90 days
to complete. That is not a law. It's a policy recommendation. The reason for that is because it accounts for enough time to go through subdivisions if you're hiving it off from a larger block of land, blah, 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 to get the titles deeds out, etc., right? So it's a recommendation. That can go longer than 90 days. We've done transactions where the sellers allowed us even a year to complete, right? We've done transactions which were completed in 30 days or less. So it's simply a question of both parties agreeing, but LSK recommends 90 days. The reason I mentioned 45 days for our Imbuko project, for instance, is because we have ready transferable titles. All we are required to go do at that point, because we have RIMs, mutation forms, because that's just how we do stuff. We do it right and everything's tight. We have to go get a land control board consent to transfer the property to you, because it is still a freehold property. You have to deal with the land control board, right? The land control boards for Imbuko are held in a place called Mashuru. It's a sub-county region of Kajiado County. They meet once a month, usually the last Wednesday of each month. So depending on when we transact with you, for instance, if you paid us yesterday, the 21st of March, which is a Monday, that happens to be 7 days in advance of the next land control board hearing for Mashuru. Formal policy is you have to book 7 business days before the actual land control board hearing.
Miss.
Right? Now, if you happen to pay us last week, we could book for the land board hearing to get their consent to transfer to you. The seller is the one who needs to get consent, always. To transfer, to subdivide, to change particulars on a title, change name, whatever. You need the land control board's permission. If you paid us a deposit on Friday, we would have booked yesterday on Monday.
That falls in line with the 7 days.
Yes, ahead. We go to
7 business working days. So Friday, Saturday,
7 working days.
Saturday,
so you don't count
Saturday and Sunday out.
Yeah. We attend the land control board hearing on Wednesday of next week, the 30th of March. They give us a consent to transfer, ideally. They could also deny, and they'll give you reasons why. Usually they are fixable problems and you come back again.
What will some of those problems be?
Legal
problems.
You haven't presented all the documents, including a spousal consent.
Oh.
Yeah, if it's a seller selling, you haven't produced a company board resolution saying that the company has agreed, because the company has directors and shareholders. It's a separate entity. The company has to agree to sell to you at a particular price, and you didn't produce that. In that case, they could either choose to defer you to the next hearing or give you a conditional approval, as long as you provide those documents within a few hours or a day or whatever, you're able to agree with them. But presumably we get the consent on Wednesday of next week. We lodge all these documents plus surrender the original title deed in our name to the land registry in Kajiado town, and they register the new title. That registry can be quite efficient. We've had titles done in about 14 days or less. It could take longer, but in theory, 14 days into April is only about
20 something days,
35 days from now. So therefore, it would not be unreasonable for us to expect that you pay your balance at that point, because we have completed everything.
And do they give you documents ensuring that the process has happened? A receipt is there? Once you lodge in the documents?
Yes, they give you what they call a registration receipt. It'll have the details of the property. They stamp it. It'll have other notes on it, and that's what you use when you're going to follow up to see if the title is ready. You present that.
Okay.
It's a receipt that they've received the completion documents, and that's what you use. Now, after they complete, they'll simply give you the original title. and copies of the transfer forms that have been franked. It's a technical term for authenticated. Each registry has to frank the transfer documents. It'll have a valuation component there for payment of stamp duty by your buyer, which hopefully agrees with your Land Control Board application and your declaration on the transfer document. All these details need to line up.
And all this is being done by the seller and the seller's lawyer. So
Yes.
as the buyer, you're waiting for them to present these documents. Who pays stamp duty?
Depending on what you agreed. So some sellers would prefer, because it's easier for them, that your lawyer completes registration, you present them their title, they pay you the balance. In some cases, all we obligate ourselves to do is hand over completion documents, a full set, to your lawyer, and they complete the registration process, because at that point the ownership can happen without any further reference to us. Right? Your lawyer handles it, because some lawyers are particular about how they do it, especially if they want to make sure there was no bribes paid, it's ethically done, and so on. They might want to control that to their own satisfaction, and that's a wrap. We get paid, they have the completion documents, and it's done. Issues of stamp duty can also be negotiated, but as far as KRA is concerned, the transferee, the person receiving the new title, is responsible for paying a stamp duty.
Whoa.
The buyer pays a stamp duty.
Okay, so what are all the hidden costs that come in? So stamp duty is one hidden cost.
Yes, it's only hidden because it's usually not included as your purchase price, unless we as a seller have said the price is inclusive of stamp duty and lawyer fees, right? But that is one of the so-called hidden, or I'd like to call them closing costs.
Okay.
It's a cost for closing the transaction. You pay the stamp duty to the government of Kenya, you get a receipt for the exact amount, and it's based on the valuation put on the transfer form by the government valuer, right? And it was franked, right? In some cases, you can actually negotiate with the seller to pay your stamp duty for you. As far as KRA is concerned, it'll still be on your account with them, but the money came out of my pocket. You know what I mean? That's a point of negotiation, but standard practice is stamp duty is paid by the buyer, the transferee.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, obviously whatever your lawyer is charging you in legal fees.
I get it.
Yeah.
So do I, as the buyer, give what would be a safe place for me as the buyer to pay the rest of the deposit? I mean the outstanding balance.
When all completion documents have been given to your lawyer, that's the first option, or when the title deed and all its related documents are surrendered to you or to your lawyer.
Okay.
Presumably at that point, if you're dealing with a smart seller like Goshen Acquisitions, we will require that your deposit already be in escrow, or your balance already be in escrow, right? So that we are transferring your property knowing we're not going to have to chase you for the money after ownership has already changed.
Yep.
Because that could be a nightmare, right? We've lost a property in essence and haven't been paid. To avoid that, we require your balance in full in escrow, or in some cases even with us, depending on the relationship with the buyer.
Yep.
So it's at that point that you hand over. Either completion documents have been given to your lawyer, or the transferred title deed in your favor has been released to you or your lawyer.
Okay. Just a couple of questions as we continue. Number one, as somebody from the diaspora, as a Kenyan in the diaspora buying land, what are the biggest things that I need to watch out for to prevent getting conned?